Okay. My name is Max Zalewski, and this is my partner, Drew Wilcox. And this is our scenario 220 business presentation. Sorry, you're good. So our original plan, was pretty consistent with all of our other past scenarios. It was to keep production Taj consistent throughout the whole year. High production in the early months, so we could have enough beer for the summer months, and then keep production of Edgar low, but raise the prices to have enough have enough room in our fermenters to produce Alley Cat and Taj. And then we also added a fifth fermenter, which pretty much I'm pretty sure everybody else did. And then when we were together, we created a separate spreadsheet that gave us it was just kind of like a calendar for the whole year, and it would tell us how many production orders we needed to put in every month, and we also put in when we should change prices. So we didn't really change prices a whole lot. We only changed prices like 2 to 3 times a year, or like I think we only changed prices for each beer maybe like 2 or 3 times, and that was like probably the most helpful thing that we did for this scenario. Um, so this is the graph that kind of shows like our total production for, or no, this is our sales for our whole year of combined all the beers. As you can see, summer Alley Cat kind of pops up, just starts producing like crazy. That's why we produced a ton at the beginning. I like this graph a bit better because it actually separates all the beers and shows how the sales were distributed in between each beer. Um, and then how it actually went. We lost some sales on Taj towards the middle and the end of the year because we didn't have enough production to actually keep up with the sales. That also happened with Edgar. Alley Cat production went according to plan. It just went according to plan. Um, it was lower than according to the original plan at the end of the year. So that's pretty much saying in our spreadsheet, we had it set at our separate spreadsheet that was our plan. We had it set at a price towards the whole year. Like we wanted to follow that plan accordingly, but because we followed it, we had like a ton of inventory at the end of the year. So we kind of just had to lower prices a ton at the end of the year. Um, and then we missed some production orders because at the end of the year, because we also thought we had so much inventory that we really didn't need to produce any more beer. So we thought we might have a higher EBT if we just stopped producing completely. Um, it turned out it didn't work out, but yeah.
All right, so the results and takeaways from the simulations. So some of like the facts from the simulation. We had no lost sales on Alley Cat throughout the entire year. And we only had one lost sale on Edgar and then 3 lost sales on Taj. So we didn't have a ton of lost sales throughout the year. We had an ending EBT of 303,000, and that put us in 7th place. So we're about middle of the road when it came to our placement in the simulation. We could have been placed higher if we avoided our couple lost sales. We probably could have placed top 3 if we avoid lost sales because we were pretty close to the top people. It was just a couple thousand that separate. So if we were a little bit more careful on our pricing and production on Edgar and Taj, we would have avoided those lost sales. And another takeaway is that the way you plan pricing before you have the simulation is usually not how it's going to end up going once you actually do the simulation, because once you start the simulation, things aren't going to go exactly to plan. You're going to end up having less inventory on something than you expected. So it usually just ends up not working out exactly how you planned it when it comes to the pricing, especially. So this pie graph we have It shows the total quantity we sold per ale. Alley Cat has 45%. Edgar has 28%, and Taj has 27%. So I think some of the takeaways from this chart is that we had highest sales on Alley Cat by a good margin, and Edgar and Taj were pretty close when it came to sales. This shows that sales in Alley Cat over summer is like the most important and valuable time of the year that you gotta be getting your sales, because that's where most of the sales throughout the year are, is just in Alley Cat during the summer period. So that's like where you gotta really be getting the most out of your production and sales. I was also surprised that Taj was slightly lower, even though it's pretty much the same as Edgar. I thought Taj seemed to be a more popular and generally more money-making beer compared to Edgar, but they're about the same. All right, and then why things didn't go to plan. I think part of the reason things didn't go to plan was because the original plan was cutting it very close on lost sales. So we ended up trying to follow that same plan in the actual simulation. We ended up getting some of those lost sales that we were originally cutting it close on. So I think that's part of the reason it didn't go to plan. Another reason is because when doing the planning spreadsheet, the Edgar orders aren't at units of 1240 in the planning spreadsheet. So planning around that beer is a little bit difficult compared to the other ones. And in this screenshot, I show that the productions for the Edgar aren't in the units of 1240 in the planning spreadsheet. So we have to kind of guess a little bit more of how much to produce when it comes to Edgar. Another reason why I believe it didn't go to plan was because inventory and when to do the price changing is hard to always control, and hard to do it always at the right times in the simulation. Because in the simulation, your price changing is going to be a little bit different than when you do the planning spreadsheet. So sometimes it's hard to always change that at the right moment, or change it so that you're boosting sales and making sure you're always benefiting yourself rather than just changing the price and then harming yourself in the end. So I think that's why things didn't go exactly to plan. And overall, what we learned from this is having high production and higher prices of Alley Cat during the summer gives you most of your yearly earnings. So that's the most important thing, is higher prices and higher production of Alley Cat during the summer. Another thing is avoiding lost sales is critical, but is also hard to avoid in the simulation, because if you want to be most successful, you have to be aggressive with pricing. Aggressive pricing also is hard to always do if you want to avoid lost sales, but also make sure you're getting the most out of the price you have selling for the beer. And yeah, the biggest takeaway is that it's just hard to control price to your advantage in the live simulation compared to when you're planning it ahead. So it just varies a lot. So those are our main takeaways, and that was our business 220 presentation.